Republicans in Washington are setting the stage for a government shutdown that could end up being the longest on record. They are mapping out plans to alleviate political pain for themselves while making life difficult for Democrats. That's according to The Hill's Al Weaver, who joins us now to discuss his new reporting. Hey, Al, so today, October 15th, was supposed to be this day of reckoning. 1.3 million members of the military weren't going to get paid, and that was going to push the parties to come to a solution to the government shutdown. But the president and Pentagon ended up moving money around to make sure the troops do get paid. How does that play into this GOP strategy of alleviating pressure on themselves and trying to put pressure on Democrats?
Look, I think it ensures a couple of things. It ensures that this shutdown is going to go on for a little while longer, unless some absolute impasse is broken at this point. They are able to figure out a way that works for both sides, but that's a real struggle at this point. You know, right now, obviously, the military is getting paid this week via the administration. They're tapping into unused funds from their previously appropriated. That they're going to use to pay the military this time around. Whether they can do that again in 2 weeks' time is another question, though. But they're also talking about another couple different avenues to help alleviate pain. They're talking about paying for or funding a nutrition program for infants at this point. They're paying for federal law enforcement officials, those type of things. So at this point, that's keeping Democrats, it's only prolonging this thing. And raising questions of whether they're going to be able to strike a deal anytime soon. And while the clock keeps ticking, it's not going anywhere at this point, and leaders are still kind of at an impasse.
Yeah, I actually heard an interesting quote from Senator Cornyn from Texas today. He said, back home, people don't even know that there's a shutdown going on. Do you think that that sentiment is widespread in Congress, where members of Congress aren't really feeling the pain or the pressure from their constituents because it's not having a really broad effect that everyone across the country is feeling?
I think it's partly that, but I also think it's partly that the pain hasn't set in on some of these missed paychecks. I mean, we're starting to see a little bit furloughed workers got partial paychecks last go around. I think that was about in the past week or so. You're going to see that more in the coming weeks. I mean, next week's the Senate staffers are supposed to get paid. That's probably not going to happen at this rate. Those are paid every 5th and 20th of every month. But at this point, it's one of those deals where if they're not going to be willing to pass the thing to pay the military, and the administration did, what's going to stop them from not wanting to pay or wanting to pay Senate staffers? So, it's come a little bit, but they also have to. There's more pain to come. I guess that's how I'd put it. There's more pain to come as far as some of these federal workers in states and folks that are that could make things a little bit louder for each member themselves.
There's also this November 1st day when open enrollment on the Affordable Care Act marketplaces begins. There's this notion that there will be some sticker shock there because if these Affordable Care Act subsidies aren't extended, people's rates could double or even triple. Do you think that's kind of a cliff that people in Congress are feeling that's coming, and that's something that could cause the dynamic to change?
It could. It could for a couple different ways. Democrats, in their continuing resolution that they rolled out last month, they had set it to end on October 31st because of this deadline, this open enrollment date of November 1st. That's something Democrats have really zeroed in on for a while. But once that's gone, and once we're over that cliff and into November potentially, that's when things can really change. I don't know what it exactly means yet, but definitely is something that lawmakers are eyeing at this point to see how things play out in the coming weeks, and if they get to that point, how the posture changes for Democrats afterwards.
What do you think are the dynamics inside the Republican Party on those ACA subsidies? We're kind of getting mixed messaging where you have someone like Marjorie Taylor Greene saying this is a huge issue that we need to figure out a solution for. Members of the Freedom Caucus, though, saying and urging Speaker Johnson to kind of hold the line and refuse to negotiate over them.
I think it's a bit split. I don't think it's one way or another, one way hard one way or another or the other. I think at this point, you have some more moderates in the party, folks who are a little more politically perilous, as far as frontliners, this type of thing. They're the ones that they're wanting some sort of resolution to come about. They're the ones that are going to be a little nervous heading into November next year if there's this sticker shock that affects constituents across various states, districts, that type of thing. So I do think those folks really want to see some sort of resolution, but I also know that there are some hardliners who don't want any action. They want to phase out these enhanced subsidies at all costs. But where this lies might be somewhere in the middle. I mean, I know John Thune, the Senate Majority Leader, has talked about, yeah, we want to talk about this at some point. We're not going to do it until the government reopens, but they recognize that this could be a problem, and I think Trump also realizes this could be a problem potentially at some point. I mean, the numbers don't lie. The numbers don't lie, and Republicans, I think most of them realize that something is going to have to be done to kind of alleviate this, whether this is like a step stool and you kind of go various levels throughout the coming years, or rather than a hard phase out. So it's going to be something interesting to watch the coming weeks.
Republicans in the Senate seem to think that they can get a few Democrats to kind of cross the line and change their mind on that. Do you get a sense from hearing from folks in Congress, Senate Democrats, that there is pressure building on maybe more moderate members, people who voted for the March extension, to end the shutdown, or are they pretty entrenched?
I think they're pretty entrenched right now. I don't think anything's changing this week, at least. They're here today, they're here tomorrow, and then they're out for the rest of the week. They're back, and then they're probably back Monday. I don't see anything changing in the foreseeable future on this. If these people were going to vote a different way, they could have done it a week or two ago. Right now, they have no incentive to make a move, politically at least speaking. And Schumer really wants to try to keep the band together for as long as he can. I mean, the Republicans keep citing this event on the Mall, this No Kings event rally on the Mall coming this weekend as a point. Democrats, they need to get through that, then they can figure out a deal. But if you look at some of these hardliners, they're showing no signs of letting up and switching their vote here.
Seems like the wild card is President Trump. How involved is he in trying to find a solution to this impasse? And, in the past, he's kind of hinted that he was okay with extending the subsidies. Also doesn't seem to be too bothered by the shutdown, said some good could actually come of it.
I think it's a couple of things. It's multi-layered for Trump at this point. He's been his eyes rightfully so on very different things the last couple of weeks. Obviously, this Gaza peace deal that he's trying to help make stick. I think that's picked up a lot of oxygen in his mind the last couple of weeks. And this really just hasn't been at the fore of this shutdown. This has been Thune and Johnson's show. And Republicans are following those two as far as this goes. Even Trump, you see him say things, and then hours later he'll walk it back after talking to one or both of them. So at this point, that's why Democrats want Trump to come to the table more. They know he's a little bit more of a wild card. They know that if they bring the various receipts, that he could come on and say, yeah, let's do something on subsidies, and that'll make things a little more difficult for people like Thune to make something happen, which he really doesn't at this point. So that's why Democrats really want Trump, of all things, to come to the table in all this and try to work out a deal, because they view him as the only avenue that could potentially lead to something to break this impasse.
All right. We'll continue to follow and see what happens. For now, we'll leave it at that. Al Weaver, thanks so much for your time.
Thank you, Drew.